Boat's in the water, and the mast is ready to go on from the top. This is the new VHF antenna. The old one was looking pretty worn out, so I got a new one. This is the wind direction and anemometer for the wind instrument. This is just kind of a manual, kind of a direct wind vane that you can just kind of look up and see. The starboard tab is missing. I think mostly I'm going to be relying on the instrument. Typically when I try to look up to see these things, I can't see them very well. So that can pretty much stay as it is. I'm not going to replace it just because I can't find this thing. This is the masthead light. Okay. This serves as an anchor light, I believe. This is the backstay. Backstay goes all the way down and attaches to the transom. And it's actually split, which we'll see in a minute. This is the topping lift, which was just installed. Use this to raise and lower the boom. This is the main halyard. And they each go through a sheave, which you can't really see there, but those are new sheaves. This is the furling that goes around the headstay. So this is the headstay furler that you wrap the Genoa around. This green line is the Genoa halyard, and this block is a preventer to keep the halyard from wrapping around the furler as you furl it. And this is the spinnaker halyard. This boat doesn't have a spinnaker, so it serves as a spare halyard. And I may get a code 0 or another kind of a reaching sail someday. Okay, these are the upper shrouds. Okay, they support the side of the mast. You can see how, it's probably better that I go over here. These go down the sides of the mast and they go over the upper spreaders. This is a 2-spreader rig. Okay, and then at the base of the spreaders, at the base of the upper spreaders, begin the intermediate shrouds. Yeah, they're there. These are the lazy jack lines. They help retain the main sail as you lower it, and they keep it retained as you raise it so that it doesn't flop all over. That's the steaming light. This is the foredeck light, but it doesn't work, so I'm not going to be sailing at night, and I don't like to use a foredeck light because it screws up your night vision. You can have headlamps for that matter. This is just the rig for the gin pole. So they're going to bring the hoist out, raise up the mast, and lower it with this little crane here. So here's how the upper and intermediate shroud go through the lower spreaders. Okay, same thing on the other side. This is a flag halyard for flying courtesy flags. There's one on each side. This is just a rope that retains the gin pole sling, so that's not part of the rig. These are the lower shrouds, and now it really all comes together down here. So the lazy jack lines come here. There's some temporary lead lines for when we hook it up to the boom. Okay. Okay. The halyards come down internally and they exit here. So this is the Genoa halyard. There's an extra halyard. This mast will accommodate up to 6 halyards, but I have 4 installed. Here's the exit for the spare or the spinnaker halyard. Okay. And then here are the parts of each halyard of each respective color that come down. And where's the main? Here's the main halyard. It comes down, and so this is where, and so they attach to the heads of the sails down here. Okay. And then here's the tails of the halyards. Okay. Here's the tail of the topping lift. And then this is the gooseneck fitting for the boom. There's the boom over there. This is the fitting for the vang, and that's a spider web that's now gone. These are just the turnbuckle ends of the stays in the shrouds. Okay, so there's 6 shrouds, upper, intermediate, and lower for each side, port and starboard. They're actually, the back stay actually splits right here, and so you got these 2 parts that come down and they attach, and there's a chain plate on each corner of the transom. And one of these is the, oh okay, and the head stay attaches right here. This is the furling drum. Oh, and they also replaced the furling line. So I got all new running lines. Okay. I know it's it's kind of messy, but there is a method and an order to it all. These are spare turnbuckles that were laying around. Don't really have a use for those. This is the boom. The main sheet blocks are here. The main sheet is on board the boat, and we hooked up the traveler lines. This is the outhaul. Okay, this is the gooseneck end of the boom, and the outhaul actually should come out. I guess I guess this is where it comes out. So I guess it's spliced to a cable. And then this is the Reef 1 line, and this is the Reef 2 line. And they actually get threaded through the sail, and then they actually come back to the cockpit. And then this is the topping lift tensioner. So it's right now I guess it's kind of a spare. So I'll get that rigged up. And then this is the line for the lazy jacks. And so this is attached here to this pad eye. So I mentioned the lazy jack line. So this line goes up and then through whichever one is on the correct side. It's up and it goes through here. We've got these things set up to go. One of these lines here, then it goes back down. It goes back down this side of the boom through this pad eye, and then up, and up through the other side, through the cable with the block on the other side, and then down through this block, which the outhaul is temporarily secured to, and then onto this cleat. Okay, the traveler has just been set up. So these lines adjust. And you can bring the, so this is the block at the base of the main sheet, and the main sheet kind of gets led around. And so you can adjust where the base of the main sheet is with this. Okay. And let's see, these are dock lines. One of these is the main sheet. Okay, this is the main sheet. This is the main sheet. Dock lines, and there's two of these. These are the new Genoa sheets. So that's the new running rigging and the rig in general. It's going to go up today. Well, this should make more sense now with the mast finally up. Start at the back. So I mentioned the backstay and how it's split. Right, so that goes up to the top of the mast. I haven't tuned any of these yet, so everything is kind of janky, but it keeps the mast upright right now. But it's in no condition to actually take it sailing. So you see how the headstay, no, sorry, this is the backstay. The backstay comes down, it splits there, and then there's a turnbuckle and a chain plate at each side of the transom, and it's just enough. I mean, if I was any taller, I just sort of, when I get behind the helm, you can kind of see the back of the backstay. So it's a little tight in here for anyone who would be taller than me, but that's not the only part where there's low clearance on this boat. So, and I've led the halyards back. That's all I really have so far. So here's the shrouds. So the lowers go up to the base of the lower spreaders, and then, yeah, this is really loose. The intermediate goes up there. It's anchored at the base of the upper spreaders, and then the uppers, which go around the outside, go all the way up to the top of the mast. Okay, and that's true on both sides. Right, it's symmetrical. This is the baby stay, and you tension this to sort of put a little bit of bend in the mast, and that'll help flatten out the main. And then here's the head stay, which is actually sort of enclosed by the roller furler. This double slotted head stay is for the, and you can see how much sag there is. So yeah, this definitely needs to be tightened up a bit, but it's okay for now. This is the roller furling line, which goes back. I don't know which side it goes back on yet. Oh, I guess it goes back on the starboard side, because this is a block where the furling line goes through. Oh, and there's blocks on the yeah, okay. There's blocks at the stanchion bases that lead the furling line aft to the cockpit, so you can unfurl it from the cockpit. Okay. Here's the flag halyards, and I think I'm guessing they just attach to, like, I'm not quite sure where they attach. Maybe the lifelines, but that's not good. I would have to find maybe another block to put down there with by the turnbuckles. Okay. And of course the boom isn't on yet, so the boom is just there. So there's the gooseneck attachment and the lines that I described earlier. So nothing has been changed about the boom, but it's going to go here. Here's the topping lift. Okay, so that goes up there, and so to rig the boom, we take the topping lift, and there's a fitting down there to tie it to, and then you can use that to lift the back end, and then one person, or it's better if two, can take the front end and attach it to the gooseneck. Okay, and the lazy jacks are still just sort of secured with this hemp line, I guess this is, and so those don't get rigged up until you put the boom on. So yeah, I like the colors, man. I just said to Great Lakes Rigging, just use the standard, you know, I guess there's a standard color scheme, so that maybe on most boats, you know, the main halyard is blue, and the jib halyard is green, and the spinnaker halyard or the spare halyard is red. So, and I think this is how they go back. These are the turning blocks and the fair leads, and then you have these stoppers here, so that, you know, if you raise the sail, for example, you just bring this lever and you lock it down, and then that locks it in place. So that way, one winch, you can use one winch for multiple lines. So there's two lines over there. Okay, and now this fair lead, this is a block for the main sheet, and so the main sheet is tied there, and it goes up through some blocks and back down. You know, there's the main sheet block on the Traveler, which I explained earlier, and then it comes through this block, through this fair lead, and then it looks like it would make sense that the main sheet have its own winch with a self-tailer. So that's how that is. So that's the rig so far, but it's fairly straightforward. I mean, you know, sailing is as old as the ages. It's as old as history, and this is sort of just, you know, pretty much the latest kind of regular incarnation of it. I mean, you know, this boat's 30 plus years old, but it pretty much represents, you know, the current state of well, not the current state, because it has an aluminum mast, and, you know, modern boats have carbon fiber, but this is pretty much, you know, you can pretty much call this current enough with the materials. Although the halyards here, this is a material called Dyneema, and it has practically no stretch. It's almost as strong as steel cable, in terms of, because you don't want your halyards to have stretch. You know, when you hoist your main or your whatever up to a point on the mast, you want it to stay there. And so, you know, 20 years ago you'd have had wire for the working part of the halyard, but now you have Dyneema, and you know, it's you know, there's advantages. For one thing, you can have a solid, you know, that splice there isn't really a splice, it's where the core of the rope, because this has a polyester braid cover, but the core is Dyneema, and this is the core that sort of comes out there. So and that's the case for, you know, here's the working part of the main halyard, you know, the working part of the jib halyard, and the working part of the spare halyard, and the rest of the lines, like the sheets and stuff, are just polyester braid. So anyway, And isn't this a beautiful place? Look at this. I mean, so the boatyard was up the river a ways, kind of past. You see like these condos, and then the boat club is past there. You can't quite see Moe's Marine, but it's up around the bend there. And then these are the houses that are part of what are called the lagoons, which are a series of canals made in the early 1960s, I believe, and then developed into these very nice houses. There's the Vermilion Yacht Club, and then there's the mouth of the river, and you can see the breakwater, and then that's Lake Erie out there. And you know, very beautiful houses. This is just such a great place. And there's my van. So if there was ever proof that I was here. All right, well, it's been a long day. I started off this morning in the hoist well with no mast, and I had to run up to the marine store to buy a new VHF antenna, as I mentioned. And UPS had to deliver one thing that was not on the rig when it was down, when I filmed it, was were the spreader boots. So those white kind of things at the end of the spreaders, they protect the sails from the spreader ends and the cables. So UPS had to deliver those before we could stuff the mast, but now it's up. Now it's up. So not a bad place to be in July. Well, one last thing. I mean, they really light this place up at night. Look at that big street light there. But I hooked up the lights that are on the mast. So that lower light there on the front of the mast is the steaming light. So when you're under power at night, you need to turn that light on as well, because that's something that like all power boats have. And so even though you're a sailboat and you're rigged like a sailboat, and even if you have the sails up and the engine's on, you're a motorboat, you're a power boat, and so you have to display that light. And then there's a light at the top of the mast, and that's called the masthead light or the anchor light. So if you're anchored at night, then that's a 360-degree light. That's visible from any direction. And so that means like, again, any boat that's anchored at night that might, that needs to be seen to say that they're anchored, has to have that light. And so you would never have these two lights on at the same time, but it's nice to know that they both work. So yeah, things get pretty quiet around here, thankfully. And I got the other running lights on there too. So there's the green, there's the starboard and port running lights. Okay. And this is a floating dock, so it kind of moves around when you walk on it. And hi there. And then there's the aft light. So as far as lights go, I'm okay. Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's just really nice here. It's really nice. So, okay, good night. I mean it this time.